If we head up to the image menu and then down to adjustments, this is what we're looking at here. We have all of these different ways to work with color inside Photoshop. And as you can see, there's tons of them. And it's very easy to get overwhelmed. We don't have enough time to go through every single one of these. I mean, there's just, we would be here for a couple of days going through every single one of these. The other thing that I want to mention too, and this is especially true if you're brand new to Photoshop, don't feel that you have to learn about every single one of these guys. Should I be using curves, or should I be using hue saturation? Should I be using photo filter, or, should I be using, my gradient map? It's just too much all at once, right? You got to remember that Photoshop is catering not only to, let's say, the end user consumer market, people at home, or, graphic designers and web designers, but also high-end professional photographers, right? So they got to cater to such a massive audience. We're going to take a look at a few key color correction commands. In this exercise, we're going to take a look at one of the simplest color correction commands, which is brightness contrast, to get us warmed up, and then we'll have a look at some of the other settings and options that we have available to us. So give me a second here. What I'm going to do inside my interface here, we still have the three copies of our image open here. Notice I have the original view.jpg down in the bottom right corner, and then I have view copy and then view copy 2. It's the two copies actually that I'm going to go and close out of. And when prompted, I'm not going to bother saving. So give me just a second to get rid of these guys. There we go, all the way back to regular old view.jpg. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to revert this guy as well, just to go all the way back to where you and I started. You can turn your panels and your toolbox back on by hitting Tab if you want, or if you want to remain in sort of this full screen as we're working with our color correction, that's perfectly fine as well. Whatever suits you. I think I'm going to go with this full screen just so we can concentrate on our image. And then I'm going to head to image and then adjustments and then, of course, brightness contrast. And again, this is a great place to start if you're brand new to color correction inside Photoshop, if you're just getting warmed up with this stuff. Brightness contrast is so simple to use. It's like the brightness and contrast knobs on your television set. Okay, so it's really easy to use, but at the same time, it's very, very easy to blow out your shadows and your highlights inside your image. So you want to be careful here. So as you can see, it's very easy to blow out my shadows, and my highlights are getting really hot there. Or I could drop the brightness all the way down, and I can lose a lot of my highlights and create a fairly dark image. And I think with this particular image, I definitely want to go darker, maybe somewhere in there, right? But it's all in the eye of the beholder as well. That's the other thing to keep in mind. What looks good to me, might look terrible to you. And then our contrast, we can crank up our contrast if we want, or we can reduce our contrast. I think with this kind of an image, I would want to increase my contrast. Maybe something like that looks pretty good, I think. Now, a couple of other things I want to bounce off you here really quickly is we have this preview checkbox. Now, my guy's turned on, so I'm seeing a live preview inside my image, which is great. And what's great about this preview checkbox, by the way, and we'll see this little preview option throughout some different dialog boxes that we're going to be venturing into, is he's a toggle. He gives us a before and an after. So this is what we started with, and this is where we are now, right? So kind of a neat thing you can do there. The other thing you can do is, don't forget, you can hold down Alt or Option and your cancel button will change to a reset button. So if you completely blow out your image, you can always reset your dialog box and start over. Okay? So again, although this guy's nice and easy to work with, you want to use the settings, the sliders that we have here, in a very gentle way. You don't want to, be doing anything too drastic, something like this, right? It's too much. So you just want to try and take it easy and wind up with something that looks fairly decent, fairly reasonable. And I think we've kind of achieved that here on screen. So if I'm happy with this, what I would do is I would go ahead and click on OK, and that's that. Now, the only problem with using this command, and not only the brightness and contrast command, but any of the commands that we're going to look at underneath the image and then adjustments menu, is these are permanent changes. So if I save my file and close out of it, I've permanently changed the file. So it's a destructive way to work. So in just a little while, I'll show you some non-destructive color correction techniques. But for now, there's your brightness and contrast.